This week on the Erotic Awakening Podcast, episode 761, The Leather Quilt with JustRob and Community, Part 2. Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, I recommend you stop listening right now. First, a heartfelt thanks to the amazing patrons of Erotic Awakening, each and every one of you. Your support literally keeps this podcast, the longest running kink podcast, thriving. If you are not already a supporting patron of the show, I invite you to join the current supporters. Just visit patreon.com/erotic awakening and sign up for as little as $2 a month. Hi everyone, I'm Dawn, and I'm here this week to continue the conversations on power exchange, polyamory, sacred sexuality, and everything in between. Well, this week I've got a great interview with JustRob, and we discuss the leather quilt. I wonder how many people know the history of the leather quilt, or that there even is a leather quilt, or what the hell it is. Anyway, I talked to Rob about all of that, and it gives me tingles just because of the history involved. So I'm so glad I got him to sit and talk with me for a while. Let's hear what he has to say. Today, I have with me JustRob, and JustRob is the lead historian of the leather quilt. And not many people know what the leather quilt is. It's one of those relics. Relic is too old, but let's use that. It's one of those relics, maybe. It's some of us old timers know what it's about. Not so much the new people coming into the community. So I thought I would bring JustRob on here to tell us a little bit about the leather quilt. So welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I was going to say, welcome to the show again. I'm pretty sure we've
Yeah.
had you on the show before.
Yeah,
So
I've been on a couple times, yeah.
yeah, talking about different topics. But I saw you post something a few months back about having the leather quilt. And I'm like, oh, the leather quilt. Oh my God, being leather and seeing it at our first PXS just gives me chills. And I would really like for more people to know that this is a thing. So can you tell us a little bit about this leather quilt thing?
Yes, absolutely. So the leather quilt, it's 20 years old this year. So the
Wow.
leather quilt is it's a quilt. It is it's ginormous now. It's 288 panels. The pan
Complete. So that's like
Yes.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the panels are 12 inches by 12 inches square, leather,
Hmm.
obviously,
Right.
name apropos. Each panel contains a back patch or a patch or iconography of some kind that represents something within the leather community, right? So it typically will be an event, a leather club, a leather house, something, a masked chapter. There are lots of masked chapters. And basically, what happens is individual, like these organizations, these events, these groups of people, they submit an application to have their organization, whatever it is, added to the quilt.
So just to give you a thing to walk people through the application process. So you said houses. We used to run something called House Meta.
Mm-hmm.
We have a back patch for
Mm-hmm.
House Meta. So if we wanted that on the quilt, what would we do to make that happen?
Yeah, so we have a website, so you can go to leatherquilt.com, and there is a section on leatherquilt.com that says request to add a panel. And on that part of the website, there is a section called requirements for submission that tells you what the requirements are. Basically, what are our screening requirements in terms of how we're screening about what organizations, what events, what houses, etc. we are looking for, and what the requirements for the panel are. We actually have specific physical requirements for the panel itself. And so what you would do is you would fill that out. It would get submitted to us. Then we have a process of reviewing those applications. The application process includes letters of recommendation, right? We would also go and talk to the people who submitted the letters of recommendation. We go and do other vetting of the organization, event, etc., right? Then if you're accepted, you would then go have your panel created. You would have the actual artifact that you're going to put on the quilt created. And then we would work with you about how you want to have the panel added. So you have two options. One, you can physically send us the panel and we will add it at an event for you. So like we'll just go ahead and clip it on, because all of these 12 by 12 inch panels are connected together with metal clips.
Right.
So it's constructed every time it's displayed. So your little panel, it's not sewn together like a cloth quilt. It's constructed every time. And there's little metal grommets on the corners of the panels. And so this thing is literally constructed together every time it's displayed, right? Once your panel is accepted, you can mail it to us and we'll put it on the next time the quilt is displayed. Or if you're going to be at an event physically where the quilt is going to be displayed, we will arrange for you to have a ceremony where you can put the panel on the quilt yourself. And that's very popular, and we really love to have that happen, where people will actually come and we arrange for them to be able to physically put their panel on the quilt. And they can have their whole family or people are a part of the organization or whatever it is. They can bring people. We let them talk, give a little speech about their organization. And like if the event has a photographer, we arrange to have the event photographer come and take pictures, or they can take pictures of the event, and people will get dressed up, and it becomes an important part. It becomes an important part of that organization, that group's history as well as it becomes a part of our history and a part of the leather community in general's history, the adding of that panel. And so that's sort of the end for them of that process until the next time they go to an event and they see the quilt again, except this time they see it with their panel on it.
Right. Oh my gosh. So that just gives me chills because I have this thing. One of the things that I like about the leather community is that they like to record the history.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already sent a lot of stuff when Dan and I minimized. I sent a lot of stuff to the Leather Archives and Museum. The Carter Johnson Library has copies of our books, all of that type of stuff. But the leather quilt, I mean, that is like something that everybody gets to see. It's not in the archives
Mm-hmm.
where only some people get to see it. This is something that travels around to events. And like I said, I'm getting chills just at the idea of like having a PXS patch on
Yeah.
there, Power Exchange Summit and stuff like that, and having a little ceremony. And oh, how people love that to dress up. And I've seen people stand in front of the quilt and have their picture taken. And yes, but 288 squares.
Yeah.
Now, the first PXS, 2012, I think, we got the leather quilt sent to us. And it was so big at that time that only half of it was sent to us because we were on the east side of the Mississippi. So
Yeah.
we only got half of it. And the weight of that puppy to put that up on a bar so that it would hang between the
Yeah.
metal and the leather and the so heavy. So do you still do that? Do you still split it up in pieces and send it to different regions of the country as
Yeah.
pieces?
Yeah. So we can. So basically, the way that we did that, and the reason we did that, and the reason that we'll still do it is cost.
Yes.
So the way it works is that the people who help me with this, right? All of us, we're all volunteers, right? This
Right.
isn't a job for us. We don't get paid for this, and so there's a cost, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, when the quilt is displayed at an event, the event producer is paying some money for that. They're paying the cost to have that shipped
Yes.
from where it resides to and from the event, wherever the event is, and then the cost for the frame that it hangs on,
Yes.
right? And as you mentioned, and anybody who's familiar with leather, imagine how heavy just 100 12-inch by 12-inch squares of leather are,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you out there, anyone listening, if you pick up your leather vest, your leather pants, and then multiply that by 100, 150, and then
Right.
imagine paying to ship that from North Georgia to wherever you are, right? Sacramento, California, Seattle, Washington, Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, Washington, D.C., Edmonton, Canada, right?
Right.
Toronto, wherever. It's expensive. And so we didn't want people who didn't have a lot of money to not be able to get it. So we decided, well, like, why don't we break it up and maybe just half of it? Maybe that would be affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So we still do ship half, but it's the thing that we constantly are still trying to innovate, is trying to figure out how to make this cheaper so that more people can see it. Because the real premise of this, when Master Varii took over as the steward and caretaker of the quilt in 2023, the agreement was that the quilt was never going to be in a museum. As a team, our idea is that this is a living historical artifact, and
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to be seen, it needs to travel, and everything we do, all the decisions that we make are around how can we sustainably allow this to travel and allow it to be seen, and that it doesn't become an archive, that it
Right.
becomes a thing that people can access, right? And it's one of the reasons why we've done a lot with leatherquilt.com. We have a digital quilt now. So if you go to
Mm.
leatherquilt.com, you actually get a digital version of it. So every panel is photographed.
Wow.
Every panel has a web page that you can get biographical information about what the panel represents, because we realize that, hey, not everyone gets to go to a leather convention, but people
Right.
still want to learn about it. But the point there being that, like, people want to be able to see it, people need to be able to see it. We are working really hard to try to make sure that we don't have to ship partial quilts. It's gotten big enough now that a lot of the times, if you see the partial quilt, it's because the event producers don't physically have enough space. Because now it's gotten to the point where, like, I think when we display the full thing, if you don't have, like, I mean, I don't remember the measurements, but it's, I mean, 288 of those panels. I think when we display it, it's now like 8 or 9 feet high by like 25 or 30 feet long to display the whole thing. It's a substantial amount of space, and like it keeps expanding. And we as a team have started to talk about, well, eventually this thing's going to get big enough where we're not going to be able to, like, event producers are simply not going to have enough space to show the whole thing, and we're going to have to start figuring out what to do about that. But luckily we're not there yet. But yeah, our goal has always been and will continue to be, how do we put this in front of people as a way that people can see our history and can
Mm-hmm.
feel like they are a part of it, like they're making it right now, and that they can be a part of it, that they don't have to be a title holder or do some superlative huge thing to feel like they are a part of our history, that they're doing it right now.
Exactly. Like you said, history is being created right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when we got it for PXS, I think cost was part of it because shipping, and it was our first event, and we weren't sure how it was going to go financially.
Yeah.
But I've got pictures of me and Dan standing in front of it, our staff standing in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point it was like 8 by 8 or 10 by 8 and so heavy. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, but it was beautiful to stand in front of and to see all the old clubs and houses and things like that. So what all besides houses and clubs, what else is on the quilt? Is there like any memorials or anything? Someone was asking me about that today, actually.
Yeah, so like, I mean, there's lots of stuff. There are play spaces, old play spaces, like old physical spaces. There are some vendors or some businesses that have been very important to the community. Like this past year, I was honored to help Lifestyle Sewing at a panel, and girl Nancy, who runs Lifestyle Sewing, she has been in the leather community for a long. She handcrafted like one of the first master slave flags.
That's what I thought I was
Yeah,
remembering the name from because as a title holder, I had to memorize so much history
yeah,
and it was ringing a bell.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so like we have people like that are still around, and she doesn't have like there's no other reason. Right. She's not like a member of a house, but she does have this business that she's run for decades. She's made title patches, title sashes for dozens of titles.
right,
She's been a person who like title producers in a pinch can go
right.
to and say, "Hey, we need this thing for the event tonight.
Hmm.
Can you turn this over?" And she'll be up in the middle of the night working to make sure that the event goes off, and thanklessly, and nobody
Right.
ever sees it. And our whole community, our whole world runs on these people, these volunteers that like we never see and never ask to be thanked, right? But also, we occasionally have some panels that are memorial panels for people. There are people who pass and who were just the people who really need to have a light shine upon them. Those people who really made a difference, who really were those people in their communities, in their groups, right? And will occasionally somebody feels strongly enough and somebody has really risen high enough in their reputation, in their
Hmm.
service, that will allow a panel that represents an individual rather than a group. There are those individuals who really have made enough of an impact on the
Right.
community as a whole that like they deserve a panel as opposed to a group. And there are some odd panels from the past of weird stuff that when I took over as historian, I had to try to figure out like what the crap is this, right? But for the most part, most of them do represent things that resonate with people, right? That were really meaningful. And you talked about people coming and looking at it and taking pictures and stuff. I've seen people. One of the things that I do is sometimes I'll go to an event, and I'm sort of an introvert. And one of the things I do, like as a historian, is I like to watch people like interact with the quilt. And I don't go up and just talk to people like unsolicitedly. I go and I put a chair. And if you ever see the quilt, look at the ends of the quilt and go look for a chair at the end of the quilt. Because what I do
Okay.
is I set a chair up at the end of the quilt and I'll watch people interact with the quilt.
Hmm.
And I'll wait to see if I see people that look like they've got questions.
Right.
And then I'll go talk to them. But sometimes it's interesting to just watch people interact with it. And there's been lots of times where I've watched people walk up to it and they'll look around to see like, is anybody watching? And they think nobody's watching. And then they'll go and touch something and then
Hmm.
they'll start crying,
Yeah.
right? And it's because it represents a thing from their past or someplace, and they're just it brings back a memory for them that is emotional. And for me, I look at that and I just go like, that is one of the things that we're doing here, right? Is that people need to understand that like these things, like everyone walking around there has a story.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those panels, it's like I feel every time we put the quilt up, I feel like the history that's like ensnared in those panels, that they all have stories and that they all have the energy of all the people whose stories and whose histories are captured in them, right? And that people feel like I'm here and I belong here because this thing is here and I can look at it and I can see things about my life and about the lives of the people that I know and that I care about here, reflected here, that matter. And I've seen people standing there, and then I've seen another person walk up and look at a thing, and then the first person starts talking to them about the
Yes.
thing that the second person's looking at, because the
Yes.
first person knows about the thing and the second person doesn't know. And then there's two strangers, one educating the other person about something. And then I go,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that is what we all need to be doing here, is connecting and communicating, and each one teach one, Mama Vi, each one teach one. And this thing, this artifact is doing it. It's connecting people and making it happen. And so that's why it needs to live and needs to travel. And that's why all of us who volunteer, that's why we do it.
Well, this is amazing stuff, and I'm with you. I'm just here grinning while you've got big arms, and
Yeah.
so we can see each other. It's very, very important. And I think that's one of the things is that, it encapsulates all the people and lives and energy and history and people that have made it possible for us to even be doing what we're doing now. And some will cry. I have cried at the quilt with things that brought up memories. And I've also just grinned. It's like, oh my gosh, look at this one. They've got this panel. They've got this. Oh, this has been remembered. This has been,
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And it's just amazing. And the work that you guys do is phenomenal. So I got another question for you.
Uh-huh.
You were saying it gets touched. It gets touched a lot, and
Hmm.
it's leather.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming you guys have someone that's like in charge of keeping it clean, but that also costs money.
Hmm.
So how do you guys have like a place that people can donate to or anything like that?
So, well, two things. So about the maintenance. So usually the con schedule is real slow at the beginning of the year. So
Hmm.
every January, we do what's called Love on the Quilt Weekend. Usually it's January, February timeframe. Master Varii has a farm. She lives on a farm in North Georgia. And the farm has a big building, like a big outbuilding, right?
Hmm.
And we do Love on the Quilt Weekend, where basically we invite boot blacks from all over the country to show up, and we break out the entire quilt. And basically, boot blacks come from all over the country, and we do the yearly quilt maintenance.
Wow.
So people come from all over the country. Every panel gets touched. Every panel gets maintenance. We have a volunteer on staff. Her name is Goldie. She's an experienced boot black. She is our maintenance supervisor, so to speak. We also have Michael, or he goes by Olson, on FetLife. He is our leather preservationist. So he has a specific skill set in dealing with older leather, the
Ooh.
preservation of old leather, the restoration of old leather. So he is in charge of, like, if we have leather that esoteric materials, leather that needs to be repaired, leather that is the odd job stuff. Any boot blacks in the audience know that, like, not all leather is the same, and that,
Right.
some stuff needs to be cared for special. It has special requirements. Well, he's the person that when we look at something and we go, I'm not sure what to do with this. It's, hey, Elson, can you look at this? And he's
Hmm.
usually the person that knows, does the MacGyver, oh, bring me a candle and a blah, blah, blah. And we go, oh, okay. Are you sure about that? And he goes, yeah, just all this stuff. And then, like, it looks brand new. And we're like,
Oh
okay.
my
Like,
gosh.
I'm not going to ask how you know that, but yeah, great. And we've started recently, we've built an internal database where we're starting to do maintenance records on every panel. So
Ooh.
when every panel gets maintained, we're keeping records of like what was done and what products were used on it and stuff like that to sustain the maintenance on it, because this is a thing that needs to live for a long time, right? With regards to donations, I believe there is a place on the website. If you go to our shop, so on the website, leatherquilt.com, there is a shop where you can buy some of our merch. And I believe there is also in the shop a space for donations if you don't want merch and
Nice.
you just want to give us some money. And all of those proceeds all go back into how the quilt is maintained, how we subsidize the quilt's travel. With the stuff like the maintenance, we maintain a lot of the boot black materials and stuff for that maintenance. There's also maintenance for the travel, right? For example, they now travel in giant pelican cases because they have to ship everywhere. And so we have to make sure they're
Right.
protected from that. We can't depend on FedEx or UPS or USPS or whoever to care about them. So we got to make sure that when we ship them someplace, it's like every time we put them off in the mail, we get these sort of messages from Master Varii going, okay, they've been shipped off. Everyone do whatever your non-denominational spiritual thing is that gets there without being damaged because now it's in somebody else's hands.
Right.
Every time it goes someplace and we're not in control of it, it's a little hair raising for all of us. But yeah, there is a lot of maintenance and a lot of work, but a lot of hands makes light work. And we have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who help us along the way. And we're very grateful. Like we couldn't do it if not just us, but all the people that help us throughout the year, Love on the Quilt Weekend, but at every event who help us set it up and bring it down and pack it up and handle it with such care.
Oh my gosh, such a labor of love. So I'm going to throw out there that if you guys have monetary love that you want to throw their way, I'm going to highly
Yeah.
recommend that because some events can't afford to get it mailed out to them. So to subsidize that is very, very helpful and gets this living history traveling around the country. So, just Rob, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Yeah, this makes my heart sing. It really does. So, we've got your website that people can go to, and if they have any other questions, do they just go to the website?
There's a contact us section of the website, or they can hit me up on FetLife. I'm JustRob, JUSTROB, all one word. You can also send me a direct message on FetLife. I'd be glad to help as well. Once again, this is our 20th anniversary year, so we're trying to go big this year. We did a bunch of celebration at South Plains, which was kind of our home event, but also in November, we will be in Seattle at Leather Rain. This will be the first time the quilt has ever been on the west coast of the United States in its entirety, or the first time since 2019, as far as we know, in its entirety. The first time it's ever been at Leather Rain. This is also Leather Rain's anniversary year. So
Ooh.
we're going to celebrate the end of our anniversary tour, their anniversary as well. If anybody is interested, you guys in November can join us in the Pacific Northwest for our sort of last celebration of our anniversary year as well.
Fantastic. So 2026, 20 years of the leather quilt, ending at Leather Rain in Seattle. Fantastic. I might try to figure out how to get there myself. So thank you, Just Rob, for joining us today and giving us a moment of leather history and how it's still being created. So thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So I've been to events that have had the leather quilt. I don't think any of the ones I'm coming to soon will have it, but that's okay. I'm sure I'll be at some next year that will, or at least a piece of it. So if you'd like to share a cup of coffee or conversation or talk about anything, the quilt, what I'm going to be adding to it, whatever, here's where you can find me in person. Twisted Tryst. Oh, I'm so excited about this one. In Southern Ohio, June 11 through 14, where I will be presenting and hopefully a lot of cuddling. Checking out an event in South Dakota in July. Seek, a submissive retreat in Wisconsin, October 8 through 11. Satiricon in Madison, November 14th, where I will be vending. Kick Holiday Bazaar in Chicago, November 21st, where I will also be vending. Both of those are going to have my hooded aftercare blankets and some new stuff. More info to come as the details get ironed out. Keep up with all the places I'm presenting or vending, my online classes and intensives, book news, discounts, and more via the Erotic Awakening newsletter. And get your EA shout out. Head over to eroticawakening.com and subscribe to the newsletter today. Awesome, awesome. So when I was recording last week's, actually when I was editing last week's show, it came to my attention that I failed to mention a couple of things about community. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it at all is because I was talking to a friend of mine and he was like, there really is no kink community. And I'm like, dude, and yes, I said, dude, I beg to differ. I have benefited, me personally, I have benefited so much from this community that it is actually a bit unbelievable to me. After the breakup, I reached out to a few people and they were there for me. I was able to depend on some people that I met through being in kink and going to events and going to munches and developing friends and being part of the community. These communities have had my back. And I say communities because some of them are Columbus communities. I've got people in Chicago and Madison and Milwaukee, and I know I know not everybody has the ability to be part of like all these little communities that I'm part of. That just comes with what I do. But if you are involved in your community, I'm going to tell you, being in Columbus, there were times that people lost their homes, their jobs, all kinds of stuff. Breakups happened. People needed to move, all kinds of stuff like that. And people in the Columbus community reached out and helped them. When Bat passed, oh my word, so many people in the community made food for her kid, took her kid to doctor appointments, vet appointments because she doesn't drive, all kinds of stuff like that. People helped out Bat. And it was people from the kink and leather communities. We have charities, at least in the leather communities, we have charity events. People raise money for all kinds of things and people and title holders and travel funds and all of this type of stuff. And there can be a few people that say, oh, it's not a real community. But again, I am going to beg to differ. This community is actually more of a community to me than time I spent in other communities, right? There's all kinds of communities. There's church communities. There are pagan communities. I've been part of a couple of like hobby communities and things like that. To me, this community, the kink community, the leather community, has given more support in every project I've done, including creating the Columbus space. Before that, the room, books, traveling, travel fund, title runs. Now, when I got here to the East Coast, I didn't know any of the community. So I went out and decided to be part of what little bit there is. I went to munches. I've gone to an event. I went to a poly munch. I went to a kink munch. I went to an exploratorium event. I went to a huge event that was only 2 hours away and met people from over in this area so I could create the community that I need here. And that's what you do, right? I don't know how much more to explain it, but I felt like when I was editing that show that I did not give enough credit to the community that has been supporting me. Now, that has been part of the Phoenix community, people in the Albuquerque community. I am not going to be able to remember everybody, but so many pieces and parts of community. And the women friends, my group of women friends, I met them all in the kink community. The older, not old. Someone called me out on that on the last show. I'm not saying old. I'm saying my group of older women are also all from the kink community. My spiritual path right now involves only people in the kink community. These are my people. This is my home. Okay, that's going to make me cry. So let's be done with that. Just know that I appreciate each and every one of you that has been part of my journey over the last couple of decades in this community. All right, let's move on. I can be found at Dawn_Awakening or Erotic_Awakening on FetLife, Erotic Awakening on Instagram, EA Podcast Dawn on TikTok, or just email me at dawn@eroticawakening.com. And be a part of the Erotic Awakening podcast community. You can become a patron of the show and get early access to the podcast, a free copy of the audiobook Polyamory Toolkit, free ebooks, discount on monthly Zoom classes, member-only Discord Not Safe for Work channel, and more. Find all the goodies at patreon.com/eroticawakening today. And help others find the show. Give us high ratings wherever you listen to the podcast, and most importantly, tell your friends. Join the conversation with other listeners. Use the links from the Erotic Awakening website for our interactive Discord channel, which is open to all listeners. Until next time, may your journey be filled with passion, joy, and a bit of naughtiness. Bye, everyone.